Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today. Hope you're all doing absolutely excellent. And I got to be honest, I'm playing a dangerous game here because I got that pre-Game Awards buzz. There's some years you just know it's going to be kind of a low-key show. Hell, Jeff Keighley himself will usually tell you that. And that's the pin in the balloon that you're never really hoping he puts out there. But this year, the leaks have been tremendous. It's been so tremendous that the conversation around Half-Life 3 has kind of stopped in the hardcore gaming circle. For me, I was already getting my butt in the seat for the Game Awards because Exodus was confirmed to be there. A lot of ex-BioWare talent there that I adore. Drew Karpyshyn, James Olin, like, I'm in, dude. That was enough to get me seated for the Game Awards. Then, on top of that, yeah, man, Knights of the Republic rumors, that's enough to make sure I stream the Game Awards. But then, this next one is the big one, right? So for the last couple of weeks here, we've been all wondering what this statue is. And the guesses have been great. Everything from God of War, Diablo, Elder Scrolls, all of these have been shut down ever since Jeff Keighley posted it. People have explored to this location in person. Turns out this statue lights up. Now, the question mark really was, who's behind it? If it's not any of those major franchises that could announce new entries and have the capital to do something like this and create this buzz, who is it? Because as that list got shorter, like, oh, it's not God of War. Oh, it's not Diablo. Oh, it's not Elder Scrolls. Okay. And it's not this, and that. It started to feel like, what is it? And that list of potential options was becoming unappealing to a lot of people. There are also some yeses out there that I never really understood, like Saros, because Saros already had a trailer with a release date and it's already announced to be at the Game Awards. So why would it be this statue? So I was really interested to see what it would be, and a bright man did take to Twitter and put out his guess, and I came mighty close, almost there, man. But yes, it's looking like this statue is connected to Larian Studios' next video game. So what we're going to do here is we're going to unpack what's going on with Larian Studios, and then we're going to take a look at what you should expect from this game, because that is a really big part of this conversation. And I'm already seeing some of the talk online. I'm like, I don't think people really quite get it. So let's start breaking it down here. How this story really broke was through MP First. They said they had a report that the Game Awards statue mystery had been solved and that it is a new Divinity trademark that had been uncovered, which matches the statue. Now, cutting through some of the fat here, kind of setting up the prior information about God of War, Diablo, Elder Scrolls, what you've got here is a trademark for Divinity, a brand new trademark. And just looking at this versus something like this, you're like, I'm starting to see that seam down the middle. Very familiar here. But it gets more interesting when they provide a little bit of a side-by-side. They have the new icon, and then they have the overlay here. And as you can see here, pretty clean fit. So clean that it's very hard to deny this isn't Divinity. Now, to be fair to MP First, they do mark this as pure speculation. And again, pure speculation once more. But they do mention here specifically the God King. If you look at the character's design, its lower half does seem to match the statue and trademark symbol again. So you can see here, they're pointing to what's happening in Divinity again. So MP First kind of had the scoop on that. Then it gets a little bit more interesting because Nate the Hate got involved, who has been a reliable leaker for a while now, Ticket to the Bank information. And when he said it wasn't related to Elder Scrolls, a day later, after being asked a question about PlayStation or Larian, he said, it is Larian. So that kind of locks it in, right? Now we know pretty confidently you can go into the Game Awards expecting to see Larian Studios' next video game. And it's only been 2 years since we really heard from them with Baldur's Gate 3, which we all know is absolutely incredible. It's received a ton of updates since. They haven't really gone silent per se. But now we have this brand new game that's going to be announced here. And we're going to talk about what it is and, again, what you should expect. But first, Larian's response to it was hilarious, because if the stars weren't already aligning on all of this information, I think this leak right here of a Divinity Original Sin 2 Definitive Edition would have called a lot of people's attention over to the statue, because the timing for it otherwise would be incredibly random. By the way, one of the best RPGs of all time. When this thing drops, presumably at the Game Awards, buy it and play it. Anyway, they confirmed its existence because they said, hey, we weren't meant to announce that yet, which I think is hilarious. And then when asked about Divinity Original Sin 3 here, he says, and this is the director of publishing at Larian, there aren't currently any plans for a new Divinity Original Sin 3 game. bruh. But once we are ready to show what we've been working on, we will. Okay. Why does that elicit that kind of reaction from me? It's simple. That terminology of new Divinity Original Sin 3 game is 1,000% like skirting the line here. I mean, there's been times we've all had that moment of like conspiracy theory brains of like, well, they're not saying like with Obsidian and Fallout, like, well, they never said it wasn't Fallout, right? Like it's always kind of in that bag. This one here I look at and go, Divinity Original Sin 3 game? What kind of terminology is that? Like, just there aren't any plans for Divinity Original Sin 3 right now. That would be the official statement. But obviously they're playing coy here because things are starting to leak. The cracks are starting to show. And just at the right time, right before the showcase. Now, with Divinity in mind, I wouldn't blame you if with the definitive edition leaked and everything, you're looking at these two games right here in Larian's library, Divinity Original Sin 1 and Divinity Original Sin 2 from 2014 and 2017, respectively. Now, I'm one of the later fans when it comes to Larian Studios. I jumped on board in 2014 with Divinity Original Sin. I adored that game. You could see Babyface Matty reviewing that one. And from there, Larian was one of my favorite developers, and they made Divinity Original Sin 2, which is one of my favorite RPGs of all time. And then they did it again for many of us with Baldur's Gate 3. What a lot of people don't talk about is Larian's history before 2014, myself included, to be fair here. And the three games you need to pay attention to most in this conversation are, in 2002, Divine Divinity, in 2004, Beyond Divinity, and in 2009, Divinity 2. Now, to kind of make this simple and wrap your head around what these games are like, I would say Divine Divinity and Beyond Divinity could fit more in that Baldur's Gate style camp, right? More CRPG isometric style. And this is an interesting fit in bringing up Baldur's Gate because you're thinking BioWare a little bit. And funnily, Larian kind of pulled a little bit of a BioWare with Divinity. Because you know how BioWare did Dragon Age Origins, and it's like, yeah, that's what we should do. And then Dragon Age 2 was like, what if we just didn't do what Origins did and went like set protagonist, action combat? Now, Divinity 2 goes for that action combat. It's much more of an action RPG. It ditches those kind of CRPG roots for something more accessible. It also ended up coming out on consoles instead of Divine Divinity and Beyond Divinity, which were out on PC. Now we're going to get into more speculation camp as we look at some of Larian's prior comments. I don't think they're going to run it back with the kind of Baldur's Gate turn-based for this game. I think this might be an action game, because there was already a conversation from Divinity Original Sin 2 into Baldur's Gate 3 of like, these combat systems might be a little too samey. For me, I have a whole video dedicated to it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think both combat systems are incredible, and I don't think you got to change too much from Original Sin 2 into Baldur's Gate 3. However, because Divinity has some action RPG roots, I feel this would be the most attractive and interesting option, but also the one that could get accelerated the most by Larian, right? They have all of the assets from Baldur's Gate 3 and from Divinity Original Sin to make a new Divinity game quickly. Like, they can fire out a new fantasy game much quicker than, say, the rumored, heavily speculated sci-fi game that many of us want them to make. I think that will be their next turn-based game. They've already confirmed they're not doing Baldur's Gate 4. They've walked away from that. But what have they said here? This is a pretty key moment here, because we're going to look at this interview here that was documented by Video Games 24/7. It was done with GameSpot, and it's the CEO of the studio, Sven Vink, who is talking about what's next for Larian, and will we have to wait until 2030? And I think the answer is quite encouraging. He says, I just came out of a meeting where I told people I painfully remember how much work it is to make a game, a big RPG. We're deep in the trenches working on our next big thing. It's shaping up quite well, actually, but it's crazy ambitious. There's so much new things we can do these days. So yeah, complex. On top of that, we're trying to figure out how to make 2 games. So this, again, if you're not a Divinity fan, you're not getting walled off here. So organizing ourselves for that also isn't the easiest thing in the universe, because we make complicated games with lots of permutations, lots of agency for players. So predicting when those will be finished is hard, and then organizing around that is harder, keeping ourselves busy, really. And then we start to get to the interesting stuff here, right? We've got an ambitious project. I'm not going to tell you what yet. This is early in 2015, April 2015. I hope that definitely in 5 years from now, I can tell you about it to say, yeah, this is working out, and this is what we're doing. We are in a position where we can craft multiple RPGs side by side rather than going idle. That's actually the main reason why we're doing multiple projects, he continues. we have this waterfall where we have this small group that starts thinking about what we're going to make. Then the very large group executes on it. Then that large group is finished. And if the people at the beginning aren't ready, then everyone is fucked because everyone has to wait. So I hope I can tell you in 5 years that we've cracked it. We've figured it out. This is what we're doing now. Here's game 1. We're making this completely different thing, game 2. When game 2 is ready, we've got this entirely different thing that's going to come. If we can make this work in a good way where we can enjoy our lives, that'll be mission accomplished. In practice, it'll probably be miserable and there'll be plenty of stuff that goes wrong, but that's the goal. Furthermore, in reflecting on 2 years of Baldur's Gate 3, Swenvink took to Twitter and said, "It's crazy to think it's only been 2 years. It's truly been life-changing, probably worth writing about one day, but I can spoil the biggest takeaway. Baldur's Gate 3 was what allowed us to do our next crazy thing. How that will pan out is anyone's guess, but I can assure you we're working hard." There's been a lot of guesses as to what this Divinity could be. Is it Divinity 3? Is it a Divinity remake? Is it a reboot? What is it? I don't take Larian Studios, especially after this level of success, I don't take them as the remake, remaster studio. It does not fit their DNA. We're talking about the team that had their biggest success ever in a franchise and then walked away from doing not only like paid DLC for that game, but also a 4th entry for that game. Like easy money if you want to kind of chop it up that way. So I think they're much more creatively driven and are open about that. And I don't think remakes or remasters need to happen for them, because if they're looking for easy money, they had that opportunity and walked from it. So this reads to me, based on the trademark and based on the positioning of the franchise, and that it's probably not an Original Sin 3 as confirmed, it's going to be a Divinity reboot. And when they talk about crazy big thing, that's where I have trouble distinguishing a little bit more. And what he's saying here is the crazy big thing that they're doing next that sci-fi turn-based thing that we're talking about? Or is the crazy big thing a action RPG from them that maybe challenges, say, what Bethesda does? Can you imagine a Larian game that had like first and third person capabilities? Like Baldur's Gate 3 elevated the presentation of what Divinity Original Sin 2 was doing in a unfathomable way. I never expected Larian Studios to do anything close to that because they never really indicated they were headed in that direction. Well, now they're basically there. You can position the camera, especially on console for Baldur's Gate 3, to play like a third-person action game. So I feel like they're pretty much there. You have all the fantasy assets. Like, can you make an action game? It would be so interesting for them to do that. The only concern I would have with them kind of taking that more action-oriented route is it going to take away from the role-playing roots? And also, for a lot of people, based on reviews I read online, because I've not played any of the older Divinity games, is that Divinity 2 seems kind of like the weakest one of the trio, but that's also like at a time where Larian was like reaching for more eyes and accessibility. So it's really interesting to see how this is all coming together. But kind of the simple takeaway here, if you're looking for, okay, Matty, I don't want any question marks. You're getting a new Larian game announced at the Game Awards. And I think that alone is exciting. And because of their output, since for me, 2014 has been incredible, I'm just pumped because I know I'm going to get to see another like landmark RPG. And I just finished playing one in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. So I'm just really fired up about that. And especially as an RPG fan, knowing the KOTOR remake might be there. And then X is going to be there. The old guard of BioWare is giving me one. My favorite RPG of all time might be there. And then this here, not to make it me, I, but it's just like really cool. I'm just super pumped about this. So yeah, man, we'll be streaming this. I'm looking forward to hanging with you all and seeing what's going on with the Game Awards. I think it's going to be an awesome time. We're going to have a lot of stuff to be really hype about is how it's feeling for me. Again, the big question mark for me, as I talked about in yesterday's video, really is KOTOR remake. Of these three, I'm like, that's the one where I'm like, it could go one way or the other. So I'm hoping we walk out of this thrilled. But nonetheless, I will be a busy boy because on top of covering the Fallout TV show, I got 3 games right in my wheelhouse that might all debut on the same stage. That's going to be sick, man. So stay tuned. It's going to be a busy weekend, no doubt about it. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, not much longer. I'll catch you in the next one. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.